could just discuss the aim, the mission, the manifesto, the goals with Borderline Presents.
Yeah.
And also, is it feasible in the near future where you, Josh, and Sean are each going to be in production? You know, like so far it's been a support system where you each took your time, but I guess the impulse is to like be making films all at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but I mean, with Borderline Presents, it was a really organic thing because we had been talking about like doing this thing with like young filmmakers for a while, and we always kind of are always helping anybody in our circle that needs help, or anybody that any any kid who comes and works with us and interns for us. It's always like we love giving back and supporting them and encouraging them, and so it's always been part of from beginning to end. See it through, not just sort of be there for advice when they need it, but like really be involved and that's what we did on Nick's movie, and it felt really nice, and it was so satisfying when the dailies started coming in for the film, because we watched the dailies every day and the assemblies at the end of the week, and to see the level of filmmaking that he was delivering, and also, I mean, we had seen his short film that he had made for no money that was kind of like a piece of Eyes of My Mother, and it was clear that he knew what he was doing, and he also has like a team that really reminded us of the kind of way that we like to work, like friends, just sort of like going gung-ho and like just staying up all night together and working on whatever, and it's just really fun, and then in terms of Borderline and the way that we work together, we always said that the first phase of our company was just always going to be physically producing and making each other's first feature, and like that was something we accomplished by the time we did James, and it's at this point right now we're all like just gonna we're all just kind of focused on our own projects, but that doesn't mean that we're not like really involved in the thing that other people like. So like Sean's writing, so we're reading Sean's script and talking to him all the time, and Josh is writing, so that's the same process there. He's reading scripts, and if he loves something, then then we'd get involved, and also Josh is very involved right now in helping me with my next project. So it's just like, it's there's just more of a philosophy as opposed to a set of like guidelines for us. It's just like, this is how we approach it, and that's how we've approached our company from the beginning. Like, there was never like.
But it's not going to be set up like you're going to be receiving unsolicited scripts. You're not going to be.
No.
You're not going to be seeking out talent and watching all the short films.
No. I think it's the way it is. It's just as we go through, like, we meet people as we go through festivals, for example, or like just randomly someone approaches us or emails us or something, and if that person has something great and is interesting, jives with the way that we work, then it only makes sense that we would help.
A natural fit.
Yeah.
Everybody, this is my friend Christine.
I'm a reporter at WZRB, and I'm always on the lookout for positive human interest stories. Here we go, folks. This is my first strawberry of the season. Yeah, it's juicy.
We're gonna play a little exercise called Yes But.
I really wish that I could get a job promotion.
Why don't you ask for one?
Yes, but they say I have to do different work.
We need higher ratings. If it bleeds, it leads.
This is totally at odds with the work that I've been doing. It's
Congratulations on a fantastic character study. I absolutely love this film. And in comparison to your other works, including your shorts, this is disarmingly warm. It's funny. And I was surprised by how empathetic the viewer sees this extremely difficult character. You wouldn't want to be flatmates with her. and what I found really, really nice is that she has a support system, and she's aided by all these supporting characters who really, really make strong gestures in order to help her out. Um, in terms of the sock puppet show sequences, um, it shows her as a community, small media market personality. It shows her it tenderizes her character, but it also shows this power struggle that she has, where in her own life she doesn't control her own body, she doesn't control her romantic needs. Her professional destiny is always there's always question marks, and even in her own voice, she edits her own material. She does have power on that, but she doesn't have final say on that. I was wondering, in terms of psychoanalysis, what those sock puppet shows, what do they represent, how do they guide the viewer in terms of better understanding the character?
For me, it's this the sock puppet show is a way into her internal dialogue. I mean, literally, it's just kind of like, it starts off in a very kind of generic, I mean, it's kind of like, the first
Unoffensive.
yeah, unoffensive or generic kind of stranger danger, kind of like, here's some good advice, kids, and then and then as as she's really struggling, the the dialogue is way more about what am I doing here? How do I get through this? And for a character that is struggling, whose struggle is so internal, especially at that part of the movie, it's it's just a way in for you to sort of hear the words that are happening in your head, without a voiceover, and that's what that offered. So, and I like that it starts off as a very innocent device, and then develops into something off and slightly haunting and strange, and builds to the part at the end where you're not quite sure if she's doing this on her own in a room or in front of people. And if she's doing it in front of people, then that's even more concerning.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a line after after the puppet show where Gail, who works in the office, she drops off this copy for her to read, and she goes, and the children's hospital called, and walks away. And the idea there is that there's a suggestion that maybe she's either done this in front of them, or they haven't seen her in a while and they're checking in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's the thinking behind
Odds
that.
with the work that I've been doing. It's exploitative.
Why don't you try a compromise?
Yes, but and I won't be doing the work that I love.
Why not try to get me something like this?
So what? Get some footage of some fat people burning in a car crash?
Jesus Christ, just make your stories juicy.
Why don't you do different work?
Yes, but if I do different work, then I won't be doing the work with the man that I love.
There's
Good
one
evening, Sarasota.
sequence that offers a boatload of malaise. She yearns for something that she does not have, and it's a field that she is not an expert in. I was wondering if you could discuss the construction and approach of that particular sequence, where she sees a couple spaghetti dinner, and then she interferes she stops their dinner dead center. I was wondering if you could talk about how you decide to frame that shot.
That sequence was one of my favorite in the script, and it was an interesting one because on a story level, that scene doesn't necessarily contribute to much. Like, it's way more a scene about seeing Christine in this moment, and I liked being really close with her and then kind of stepping away and watching her in this way, where we're like were behind the couple, because I guess it started off with the end of the shot.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't start off with the beginning of the shot, because the end of the shot for me was always seeing the couple and then her walking away and getting a sense, just this one little hint of them kind of confused by what just happened, and that was where the shot started. So then it's about how to bring her into that shot and stay there, and have to watch her navigate this conversation that she got herself into,
Mm-hmm.
and then quickly kind of realizes that she doesn't know what else to say, and so yeah, it was all about just kind of my favorite thing to do, which is just sort of put the camera back and just watch this person in a moment, you know, and live that moment out, and then I'd always imagined that moment where she walked away and that couple was just like left there scratching their heads, and that's where we would be.
It's one of the film's first long takes, because a lot of I'll call it the broadcast news portion at the beginning of the film, it's very, it feels as if it's an editing room and they're about to go on air.
Yeah.
And that's really the first time where
we step
where
back
we're
and
sitting
just watching her.
yeah. A great shot, and I think everybody in the audience that I was with felt that malaise. It was really not comfortable. So much is being said about Rebecca Hall's performance. The trades are going nuts about it. We're already projecting ideas about wartsies and stuff like that. What I really appreciated was her body language, her posture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you negotiate or brainstorm that aspect about Christine's character?
Those kind of choices? Rebecca had about 15 to 20 minutes of footage of Christine to work with, and from one interview, one sort of like Suncoast Digest interview, and there was a bit of that. You kind of got this tightness, and her voice was there, and she was a little, she's a little nervous, but in a very subtle way, and and that and the script and what she read about Christine informed her about her mental state and the way that she would interact, and all that she internalized and went through this thing that she inside her as she prepares for a role, and it came out in these kind of ways, and her face would tighten up and her back would tighten up, and she's very much that kind of character. She's got that in her, and Rebecca
she brought that to the first scene, and you're
Yeah.
watching it through the viewfinder and you're freaking out.
I remember watching her as she was like playing with how Christine would walk, and and I remember hearing this when she was preparing the accent, the voice. She sent me like an iPhone like audio clip.
Okay.
And I heard it, I was like, fuck. And she wasn't reading the script or anything. She was just reading this kind of generic, whatever. It was like something that she had gotten from there's a website that has a lot of regional accents.
Okay.
All kind of like cataloged, and you can go and you can listen to them and use them as a basis to develop your own accent. And she sent me her reading some of the writing they have there from one of their recordings, and it was like I was hearing somebody.
Was it
different.
Sarasota specific?
No, it was just, I forgot what the story was. It had nothing to do with Sarasota.
Okay.
Because it was coming from Ohio.
Okay.
That's where the accent comes from. It comes from where Christine is from, which is Ohio. Yeah. And Sarasota is a weird place, because Sarasota doesn't necessarily have an accent or an identity even. It's a strange place to visit, because
it feels like a transition world, or
it feels like a place where people are and have ended up or are gonna try and get out of. Like a lot of retirees and older people,
So it's emblematic of the world the media world that you present.
That I love.
Good evening, Sarasota. I'm George Ryan. Christine, you and I have been working together for over a year now, and we've never gone out and had a drink together.
Well, you've never asked me.
You're not always the most approachable person.
In terms of hair and makeup, specifically the scenes where the adult daughter is living with the mother, I was thinking a lot about Todd Haynes' Superstar. Like in terms of being stuck under a household where you have two living adults. I don't know why I harken back to that, but then of course it's set in the 70s, and I was thinking, I was making correlations, and I think there's something about the Carpenters in her bedroom.
There are, yeah. We would have used Carpenter's music if we could have. Yeah, it's money, and it's also they're a difficult.
Super protective, I imagine.
He's very protective with the material, so there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff you have to get through.
In terms
beyond
of
just like the initial money that you need to even come to the table with.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
In terms of hair and makeup and also production design with regards to her bedroom, how does that inform her psyche with report to the viewer?
Well, I think it's
Those decisions that you made.
it's kind of like the room is a very safe place, and that's what we want it to feel like. It's very, like, if you look at the design of the room versus the design of the rest of the house, the room is basically all one color.
Yeah, it's very vanilla-esque.
Yeah, it's like a creamy pink or something, and the posters are framed, or like they're in the place where they should be. You know, there's a kind of dance that she does, a choreography of going from like one end to the room. This is how she, like, every day it's like she pulls the pillows off here, does this, takes the sheets off, walks around, looks in the mirror, stretches her face, picks out an outfit, gets back in bed. Like, that's her daily routine, and it's very safe and comfortable as she listens to like the song at the end of the night. The rest of the house is warm, but it's moodier, it's darker, and design-wise, we filled it with a lot of patterns. There's a lot of patterns going on in that. Like, the curtains are like really intense, this intense floral pattern. The couch is this like weird orangey, like the couch is like orangey, and then there's tons of like vines and things, and that shot and the pillows, like everything is kind of just chaotic, it's not just kind of like one it's not monochromatic in the way that the room kind of feels. Like there's two shots that I think really capture her kind of in the middle of all that production design chaos, which is like her on the couch after the gun room scene, where she's kind of just like slumped in, watching TV, and this couch just looks like it's on fire. It's just so saturated and the chaotic. And then there's also the one where that hard light's coming down from over the kitchen table, and she's leaning in, just listening to the radio, and behind her she's sort of framed against those curtains. And those scenes are like both the scenes where the outside is kind of capturing what we want you to feel, that we want you to think she's feeling inside. And to continue on this, it's like the costume design was very, very we were very careful on how we
incrementally.
What we did was we had in the beginning, when she's still more in control, a lot of these patterns are on the outside, jewelry, things like that. And as we go along, and she starts to
implode a little bit.
Yeah, where she starts to come out, and that manic and that instability starts to show itself more and more. We stripped down, like, it just the outfits themselves got more like one color,
Interesting.
less and less jewelry until the very end. She's just the most basic she can be. So that was there was a story that we were telling in the clothes, and there was a story we were telling in the house and the environment she's in the house. And then, yeah, I mean, everything was very meticulously.
You pick up on those details.
Yeah.
It certainly contributes to a fuller idea of
Approachable person.
Why don't you adjust your thinking? Christine, this isn't the start of one of your moods, is it?
Have you seen the flowers? They're fake! Sums up the whole operation!
Christine, go home!
These people are ruining me!
These people.
No, why don't you just listen to me?
They're here with not one but 4 films, and I happened to have seen them all. I believe, with the exception of Goat, I think. Anyway,
They didn't do Go.
sorry, I think I've
They
seen
did
them
the
all.
Fits. They
Yeah.
did Christine. They did Complete Unknown.
Frank and Lola.
Frank and Lola.
Cool. I've seen them all then. This one, the score for this is. I was thinking a little bit of The Master. There's. I'm not sure if I'm using the right instruments here, but there's like a percussion. It's not menacing. It's very playful at the beginning.
Yeah.
But then it evolves into something a little bit different. I was wondering if you could address that specific
Yeah.
part.
I mean, first is Christine's theme. There's a melody. There's something soothing and slightly haunting, but ultimately there's a romantic sound, and I think the sound that she would have wanted to hear. And then this kind of like tick, 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 news thing, and then that devolves into a more like atonal, aggressive thing, and the melody comes back sparingly, and until the middle, where it's like the morning after cue, which is like one of my favorite pieces of music ever, where she screams at her mother, and then she sits down and like cuts hard to her like next day, gotta keep moving, and that music's playing, and I think what's beautiful about that is that because of what the context of that piece, that piece comes after the most chaotic of all days. That all of a sudden that like beautiful piece of music they created has this really haunting, like, oh my God, oh, here we go again kind of quality. And Christine against that music is so discombobulated. I mean, she's walking to this office knowing that she made a fool of herself the day before, but she's got to keep going every day. It's gonna keep trying. You put on nice clothes. You go to work and you do the work that there's like this thing. You got to keep going. So yeah, I mean, it was, and again, it was taking a cue from Christine always. Either the music would represent try to capture exactly what's going on in her head, or reflect something that a kind of music that she would want to associate with herself. So yeah,
her soundtrack for positivity. I
yeah,
guess.
her like romantic film soundtrack. And the way that we work wasn't very different than the way we worked on anything else we've done. I was just a little bit more of a pain in the ass, I think, because there was so much music, and there were so many different moods, and the music itself, even if it seems minimal, there's so many things going on. Like Danny and Sander have so many things going on at once, and I guess there's also this part of me where it's like I just love working on things. Like I love working things as much as I can, because that's why I make movies. Like well, why does it sound different when you do that? Like, why is that? Wait, like, is it that one instrument? And I love, like, let's take away that instrument, let's take away that. And then trying to understand what is making me feel the way I'm feeling. And that's like why I love making movies, is partially this ability to just kind of obsess and take apart and then put it back together kind of
Yeah, it's not
process.
it's not second guessing yourself. It's actually it's kind of like saying, how can I use this different tool set in order to accomplish the same task?
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah, yeah.
I don't want to get into your personal life here, but Scorsese as filmmaker, and you have
Super Castle.
if you don't mind me saying, I mean, I think it's out there, but the editor is your wife.
Yeah, yeah.
And editors often fight for choices, and they sometimes make directors feel super uncomfortable. And I was wondering how that process was like with somebody that the end of the day, you don't go back to separate lofts or anything. It's like it continually stays with you. So I was wondering if that process was bizarre or different or more informative or like.
I mean, I announce it like everywhere I go. I'm like, this is my wife and editor. This is my wife and editor. I'm so proud of her and her work, and I'm so enamored by her as a person. And I just love working with her so much. We fight like like to say it was like all like sweet and loving and this bullshit. It was fights. It was like it was disagreements. It was. But and also, yeah, we took it home. Like, there's no way not to take it home. Like, and with me, it's impossible for me to let go of things. Like, I'm just like, it's like, okay, we can't talk about it, and I'll. That's what she says to me. Like, you can't talk about it, and I'll just be like.
When can we talk about it?
Yeah, but okay, but and then and it would. And she was very good about engaging when it was productive. When what we were talking about were, like, if we were just sitting around the table and just like, what if we did this, and then we're like started getting to a roll about like, oh great, we're gonna try this, we're gonna try that, we're gonna try this. But if she would feel like it was me sort of like, if the conversation wasn't going anywhere, it was just kind of like spinning, or if I was just spinning my wheels. And for the sake of our marriage and for the sake of everything, she would just be like, stop, I'm not talking about this anymore. I'm not talking about it. And she really wouldn't. And that's the way it went. And then, we'd have to
Netflix and chill and then come back to it later.
Yeah, exactly. Netflix and chill. And we also did, we kept the edit out of the house. We had to have an office. We had to have that. And then we had to have a room in our life, and it worked. I mean, it was really like it was just beautiful. Like, got up in the morning, made the bed, walked out, got coffee, got whatever, the bagel, got on the train, went to work. Like, and then like finished the day. Had like we always worked really long days, and then come home on the same train. Like, it was just, there was like I loved it. It was my favorite thing. For me, it's like, it could have gone terribly wrong. But like, for me, thinking of the future and feeling so hopeful that like, oh, I didn't just marry, like, this isn't just my wife, this is my partner.
And you also knew her professionally, because this is not her first credit. No. She did great films.
Yeah. She's edited two of Sebastian's last films.
Yeah,
she worked on Magic in the edit room as a consultant, and she did an amazing documentary, Mala Mala. She's doing another amazing documentary now with the guys who did Mala Mala. She's just a great editor, and she wasn't someone that like planned on being an editor. She kind of became an editor by circumstance, and what she's very good at. She's really good at performance, and she's very good at like understanding, putting one shot before the the meaning of juxtaposing two
Mm-hmm.
shots, you know,
Mm-hmm.
which is what editing is all about. Is how do you imbue? What does the meaning of this shot become when you put this in front of it, or if you switch them? What does that do? And you know, and every once in a while, she let me get my hands on the keyboards.
Yes.
You okay?
Do I not seem okay? Maybe you can get us some footage of the chickens having sex so people can see how the eggs are really made. That's a joke.
What is this? What are you doing?
I've just been thinking a lot about your idea of sensationalizing the news. I'm agreeing with you.
And now, let's kick it over to Christine Chubbuck.
Thank you, George. In keeping with the WZRB policy, complete reports of local blood and guts, TV 30 presents what is believed to be a television first.
You read the script, you have your own visual, you're mapping out what you want to see visually. Obviously, the most potent, scary scene of the film is announced beforehand. The viewer knows what's going to happen to this character. And the choice that you made in how to frame the shot, and I don't know if I want to give it away here or if there's a way to sort of go around how you present the moment where she commits the final act. I was wondering if you could detail it. Why did you choose?
Overhead.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Are you thinking of MPAA as are you like?
oh no.
No.
No. Never thought of
I
that.
don't know.
Never thought of MPAA. No, you needed it was a moment for me where I felt like I needed that God's eye view,
Mm-hmm.
and I also needed something to just on a visceral level. I knew that after the bang, you needed something else, and the something else had to also be shocking, and so that's what that was. The bang was the bang, and it scares you, throws you back, but there's still this moment of, wait, did that just happen? Which is what they were feeling. That's what I was trying to capture.
Okay.
Is the disbelief. I needed a moment to build the disbelief of what they just saw, and it was that moment where you just sort of like, you find her, and that's where it really freaks everybody. That's where everybody realized, oh my God, this just happened, and so that was the thinking.